So many golfers I see come to me and they're complaining that when they swing the club through impact, they're flipping. What's actually happening is the rotation, particularly of the left hand, left arm and club, is not working quite the way it should. So what I want to do this morning is have a look and show you how the rotation should work in a couple of drills to help you. Hi, I'm Peter Knight, and I've created Peter Knight Golf, this YouTube channel, to help you play the best golf you possibly can. And if you hit the subscribe button at any time during the video, then you'll receive a video which I send out on an almost weekly basis. If you do like the video, click the like, share it, leave a comment, or do all of those. So let's have a look today at what's happening with rotation during the golf swing. When the club swings back and through, the movement of the wrists, they do a few things. One is that they hinge and unhinge. So we can see this movement here is hinging the wrists or cocking the wrists. Now, I'm not doing anything with rotation there, and I'm not doing anything bending my wrist this way. The flipping movement, which I referred to before, is when the club swings through, and if we just think of left wrist for the moment, the left wrist bends this way through impact. So what happens is a player, when they strike the ball, they finish up hitting the ball and the shaft of the club is vertical, or even worse, the grip of the club is behind the hands. Now, of course, when that happens, it's really easy to either hit the ground before the club gets to the ball, or to miss the ground and catch the top of the ball. Very, very common. And that's because the lowest point of the swing moves to being behind the ball, whereas, of course, with an iron shot, fairway woods or hybrids, it should be a little bit in front of the ball, which is the idea of catching the ball with a descending blow or hitting it on the downswing. So let's have a look at what should happen during the rotation. When I set myself up at address from the side here, you can see I've already got a slight angle between the shaft and my left arm. Now, if I move to here in my swing, that angle there that I had at address, I've still got. Now, if I retain that angle, but allow my arm, my hand, and the club just to move this way, that's the rotation movement that we're talking about. So it's this movement here as opposed to any movement with the wrist this way or any hinging movement. Now, as the club's approaching the ball, we need to time that rotation very correctly. So from the side, if we watch as the club moves down toward the ball, we don't want the club working this way. If my club works this way, the arm and the hand have already begun that rotation. Now, clearly that's going to put the club in a very incorrect position, and as it swings through the ball, it'll cause the club to swing to the left. So one of the big errors with rotation is that it begins to occur too early in the downswing. Once it begins, there's no correcting it. From the top of the swing to impact, I've got a quarter of a second to a third of a second, depending on the player's swing, so not much time. So the first thing they'll want to do to get the feel of this rotation is just allow my arm and my hand to work this way as the club's approaching the ball. So there's a fair bit of rotation there. I'm rotating my arm with my club here to here is rotating through 90 degrees. In the downswing, I'm not actually going to work that much. So if I can just get the feeling of doing that, it's going to be really helpful. Now, if I bring this impact bag in, and this is a great way to just practice this movement here, from here with two hands on the club, now all I'm going to do is allow that same rotation to occur so that as the club approaches the ball, my hand and my arm are rotating. Now, when I swing the club, my body's moving at the same time, so my body's rotating. Now, if I move from here and rotate my body without doing anything with my arms, then the club almost gets to the bag correctly. Club face is still open, and my hands are a little bit too far forward. Now, I've only got to add a small amount of rotation for that club to get to the bag correctly. So I've really only rotated through about that range, and that's all. Now, of course, I'm not going to rotate my body, then rotate my hands. There's a the sequence where they're moving at the same time. So if I've got some body rotation and that small amount of left arm and club rotation, then the club will move to the bag correctly. And if we're watching from down the line, that combination of body turn and arm rotation allows the club to move on the correct path. So now as the club's swinging down, I don't want to start that rotation early. As the club's swinging down, it's not really going to begin at least until here. So there's a small amount of rotation there. Now the thing in the golf swing is that when you move correctly, you will feel a lot of rotation, but most of that's happening after impact. So if you just practice that small amount of rotation coming into impact, then that'll give you the feeling of the timing of it with the body turn. Now the other thing that's happening at the same time is there's a small amount of the wrists unhinging. Our main focus is on the rotation, but I still need to mention that there is some wrist unhinging as the club approaches the ball. So again, small amount of unhinging, body turning, small amount of rotation, keeps the club face coming to the ball squarely and keeps the path of the club moving correctly. So if we move the bag out of the way, all I'm going to do to begin with is just make really small swings to give me the feel of this rotation and not flipping. Now a couple of checkpoints. When I swing through, so if I hit this little shot, when I hit the ball, it's really easy to mishit it. I've had way too much wrist movement going on. Instead, when I swing through, I'm only going to make a small swing and finish through to here. And even at this point here, there's been no flip with the wrist whatsoever. So there's been a small amount of rotation with my body movement and nothing happening with the wrists. So definitely don't do the first one where you get too much rotation too early and too much work with the wrists. It's a small amount of each. And of course then we can make a bigger swing and look to do exactly the same thing. So again, most of that rotation I can feel happens beyond impact. So practice doing those drills, say with that impact bag. It's only very light little movements just to give you the feeling of how that rotation should work. Put that into smaller swings, build the swing so you're doing it with everything from short shots right through to driver, and it's going to give you so much more club control and directional control.